Hey everyone, and welcome to another video. So today what we're doing is taking a look at the Trifo app. So this is the smart app that you can use with the Trifo robot vacuums. So in this case, the Emma that I have sat just there. So first thing we'll do is just launch the app. And in this video, I just want to quickly go over just a quick overview and also just give a few pointers to Trifo themselves of things that I would like them to actually change or improve maybe in future releases. These are the kind of things that they can fix quite easily and software features that really should have been baked in right from the start. Now, I don't know whether they're different on the other models, because as you can see, if you go to add a vacuum, as you can see, there are various different models. But in the model that I have, the Emma version, then obviously this is where we stand. So firstly, on the homepage, obviously, if you want to add, you can just follow the prompts. When you get the vacuum, it's pretty straightforward in terms of how to add it. I did mention in my review that I did have quite a few problems. And one thing that I'm not sure whether I specified and actually clarified was the issues weren't necessarily to do with adding it to my home network. The issue was when my phone or the iPad or any device was actually trying to connect to the Wi-Fi network of the robot itself, of the robot vacuum. So in order to connect it, you have to actually connect to the vacuum, and then you use that connection to connect to your home network. And where it would constantly fall down would be the connection between the device and the vacuum, not necessarily between the vacuum and the home network. As soon as that connection was actually made, it actually connected to the home network straight away, even though the app actually still said failed. So that's just something I wanted to clarify just whilst we're here. In the top left hand corner, as you can see, there's three little lines. If you click on that, what it does is it takes you to sort of the main app information. So this is where it gives you your region. It'll give you whatever username you've chosen. Normally it's the email address. If you want to change the password, you've got the option there. You've got your option for your language. If you want to set up Amazon Alexa, this is where you would choose to do it. It gives you instructions on how to do that. And then finally, just at the bottom, it gives you information about the app itself. Right, going back, once you click onto the vacuum itself, this is what's presented on Emma. Now, I'm not sure if the other versions are slightly different, but this is what we get with mine. Now, I've just actually ran this in the other room, hence why I already have a little map here of what it's basically vacuumed. And as you can see, because I took it off charge and brought it in here, the robot still thinks it's actually at home, so it thinks it's on charge. And that's one of the sort of flaws of this system, where wherever you first start it or wherever you leave it, that's where it thinks it still is when it actually takes over. It doesn't keep any memory. That isn't necessarily a bad thing. It's not really a concern to me, but that's just something to note. So if you do move it from one room to another and the battery runs out, it's going to want to go back to wherever it thinks the charger is, which isn't necessarily where it's going to be. First, what we'll do is we'll just quickly discuss what's actually on screen. So bottom left hand corner is what you click to actually start cleaning. So you literally just click that, and as you'll see, it starts to clean. I'll just pause that because obviously it's quite loud. Recharge is what you hit when you want it to basically go back to the charging station, and suction setting is basically where you adjust how powerful you want the suction to be. As I've said, because of the size of the rooms I've got in my house or where I've used it, I just leave it maxed out and it's always fine. The last run, by the way, was roughly around, I believe it was 12 or 13 minutes, and as you can see, it got down to 66%. So you can quite easily run this for upwards of half an hour, and it should still have enough juice to actually get back home. So runtime wise, I'm actually really impressed by how well it actually manages to do a whole area and actually manage the battery life. Manual mode, as I mentioned in the review, so in order to enter manual mode, all you do is you hit this little joystick here and it brings up a... Let me just exit out of that. But that joystick that you saw in the middle, it literally controls it manually. So it will literally take it forward, take it back, all that kind of stuff. And it's just very difficult to actually control it correctly using that method. So personally, I think with the manual mode, if they could create a square or something where you could literally just highlight it and tell it roughly where you want it to go, I think that would be a much better way. But as I've mentioned that in the review video already, I won't delve too much into that. So coming into the three dots in the top right hand corner, this is where most of your additional functionality comes in. So firstly, about the device, this will literally just give you all of the information about the device. If you want to rename it, it gives you your network information, so obviously whichever network you're connected to, and it also gives you the serial number and the product name of whichever model you've got. Coming down, the next one, the voice setting. So this is basically where you set whether you want it to be really loud or you want it quieter. Obviously, if you want to schedule this overnight, this is where the quiet mode would come in useful, and obviously you can then adjust the volume there as well. There is functionality to download additional languages, as you can see here. Mine, obviously, I'm using English, so I'm not bothered downloading any of the additional ones. Next one, and this is one where I think they need to make improvements. So cleaning schedule. This is probably one of the most important things when it comes to robot vacuums, for the simple reason that most of the time you want this just to be done when you're not around. You want it to be done either overnight, either when you're at work, something like that. So if we come into cleaning schedule, as you can see, I have two schedules set up, and I've basically got it to run every single day at 10 a.m. So 10 o'clock in the morning, and I did have it set for 9 p.m, but at the moment I think I changed it to 8 p.m. Now, looking on it, the information that you can see it's running every day, and you can see that I've got it set to turbo mode, so basically maxing out the actual power. But when I click on it, as you can see, every single time it resets the clock. So it goes back to 12 a.m. So essentially what I have to do is make sure that I do actually set it for 10 a.m. Repeat cycle, have it set to every day. Obviously, if you want that on certain days, you can change that, and then you have your three modes for quiet mode, normal mode, and turbo mode. But when I save it, that is the same setting, but it doesn't actually give you any indication of what time any of these are running. And it's the same if I click into the next one, it doesn't actually tell you what time it's going to run, it just resets it. So I think what Trifo need to do is, in this section, they need to initially put the time on this screen as well. So on this screen that we see now, we can see exactly which timers, which schedules we've got set, so then we don't go and create duplicates and we don't end up accidentally deleting one. Because if you were to just go into there and hit save, it would then set it for 12 a.m. And obviously if you've got it on turbo mode, you don't necessarily want it running on turbo mode at 12 a.m. because it will obviously do the voice prompt as well when it actually starts running, and also when it returns back to home. Aside from that, obviously the fact that it will bump into things, that could be quite scary for somebody if they wake up halfway through the night and all you can hear is a vacuum bumping into stuff, else you won't necessarily know it's a vacuum. So that's something that I think they need to add to it. They need to, simple option, just add the time to the bottom of each one of these labels, and that should fix that. Cleaning history, this is just an overall runtime kind of summary, and this is more so for keeping an eye on all of your perishables essentially. So your filter, your bristles, your brush, all of these kind of things, anything that is a replaceable part, that's just to give you an indication on those. There is another section, so if we come down to maintenance, as you can see, it does count down how long before it thinks you either need to at least clean them or possibly replace them as well. Now with these particular parts, because of what they are, I wouldn't necessarily say straight away as soon as it works out to roughly 150 hours. So I wouldn't say 150 hours means you have to replace them, but it could possibly be a suggestion. And then obviously if you've either cleaned or replaced these parts, you can hit reset and it will then reset those particular elements back to the 150 by the looks of it. That is set from standard. So that was maintenance. So function review, I've not really figured out what this does. I'm guessing this is for other versions of vacuums, because this on this particular version doesn't actually do anything. So essentially what this is doing is there probably is meant to be more settings at the bottom along here on other models, and possibly what it could be is it changes what you've actually got there. But on this particular model, it doesn't actually do anything. Find My Robot is a cool one. So as soon as you hit Find My Robot, So that is quite useful if you have run it and it's failed to return to home. If it's got stuck under a settee or a sofa or something, it just makes it easier to find it. And finally, down at the bottom, software updates. So this is where you do your software updates. When I first connected it, it did have a software update waiting. So obviously I would say make sure that you keep an eye on that, and also make sure it's on charge whenever you're doing any type of update as well. I think it does prompt you to do that anyway, but I believe when I actually did mine, because my battery was above 50%, I don't think it was necessarily required. The first time I actually downloaded the software update, it did actually prompt me saying that I think my battery was on about 30% at that time, and it did actually say, no, you need to put it on the charger, and then even then it wouldn't actually allow me to do it, I think, until it got to above 50. But yeah, just make sure it's on power, make sure it doesn't die whilst the software update's going through. The update itself was very, very quick. It went through very fast. Must have obviously been a very small file, but yeah, it's one of those things where whenever you're updating any device, make sure it's plugged in or on power, on charge, so then a power cut isn't a reason for something going wrong. And that is pretty much the app. As I've mentioned in the review, it's a very basic, very simple app, and in terms of functionality, it's very, very limited, but it gives you everything that you would actually need in terms of just setting this up once, putting it wherever you want it, and then just setting a schedule and just leaving it to it. As I mentioned in the review, this isn't a vacuum replacement. So this isn't to replace your handheld vacuum. This is something that is going to maintain a clean environment and get rid of most of the sort of loose dirt and debris. I was actually quite surprised by how much dirt this actually picked up, bearing in mind before I ran this the first time, I did actually vacuum the room in question, both in here as well as in the other room, using my handheld vacuum, and it still managed to pick up a lot of dust, a lot of dirt. It even picks up a lot of small sort of like stones and things like that, hard objects that I wouldn't necessarily have thought it would have picked up. To be fair, when you've got this up and running, once you've had it running for a few days, and if you've got it scheduled like mine, if you're running this twice a day, then it's going to keep your environment very, very clean generally. So yeah, it's not going to be perfect. It's not going to be every little speck of dust picked up, but it'll make sure that no big chunks of dirt or debris are left in sight. And then any small things, and in particular, anything like fibers, so cloth fibers, threads, things like that, when they fall on carpet, it's very, very difficult to pick that up. Everybody who's used a vacuum knows that. Even quite powerful motorized handheld vacuums sometimes struggle to actually pick up threads from a carpet. So that's obviously something that you can overlook. Where I was, as I'll say it again, I was very, very impressed by how well this works on my laminate flooring. Laminate flooring, generally you need a foam roller sort of attachment in order to actually get low enough, and bearing in mind that this is a raised sort of vacuum, whenever it went onto the laminate side of things, it's picking up the dust and dirt very, very well. So on laminate, any hard floors, I think this will do a really good job in just keeping most of the dust collected and keep your house, wherever you've got this set up, generally quite clean. And then maybe once a week, or whenever obviously you've got any heavy contaminants, then you can obviously bring out the main handheld vacuum and do a once over. But generally this will keep it clean. So yeah, I am very, very impressed by the actual vacuum itself, and alongside the app, which with the functionality it has, it's enough to do what it needs to do. In a way, I'm actually pleased that they've not gone overboard and tried to throw in features that are half-baked essentially. I'd rather have all the features work as they do in this particular app, rather than have features that don't necessarily work that well, or possibly cause the app to actually crash. I've not had this app crash, not even a single time, and every time I've come out of it and gone back in, it will update, and it will basically bring up the last sort of memory of the room as well. And you can actually obviously have this running on auto, go into it, and it will still update. So as you can see, I've ran it straight down, I've moved it back, and that is exactly what it has in its memory. Anyway, yeah, that's it for this particular video. If you do have any more questions, don't be shy, drop them in the comment section below. I do my best to always answer as many questions as I can. If you do have any questions for Trifo, then obviously I do still have a contact with them. So if you have anything, any suggestions, anything like that, drop them down below and I'll forward them onto Trifo as well. If you haven't already done so, please do subscribe and also hit the notification bell. That way you'll be notified whenever I upload any new videos. And I'd really appreciate if you give this video a thumbs up as well. It just helps the channel out, it helps more people see the video. And other than that, thanks very much for watching.